Chapter 1001. Jiang Wangyun hurried coldly before falling silent. He was naturally aware that there was no way that Blood One would be willing to hand Tang Wuling over to him. The nights in the sky and mountain ranges were extremely cold, and the lowest temperature often dipped below -50 degrees Celsius. Once again, -58 degrees Fahrenheit for our American homies. Everything was covered under a blanket of snow. Yet if someone could use a special device to observe the energy in the air, they discovered that a vortex had appeared in the air above the Blood God Legion base, one that was constantly absorbing the natural energies in the surrounding air. This vortex was like a giant funnel that led straight into the Blood God Battalion dormitory building, and it had been in existence for close to a day and a night already. Finally, a hint of light appeared on the horizon, and the black sky gradually turned into a deep blue color, heralding the arrival of a new dawn. All of a sudden, Blood One's expression changed slightly as he could clearly sense that Tang Wuling's soul core was about to be completely manifested, as evidenced by the fact that the rate at which he was absorbing natural energies was beginning to sharply decline. Within the dormitory room, a layer of delicate lustrous light had appeared over his skin, and there was also faint light circulating beneath his skin. He was already extremely handsome to begin with, but he had become even more dashing and stunning. Within his dantian, all of the ribbons of light had already disappeared, and they'd been replaced by an ovular soul core that was shimmering with blue light. The soul core was around the size of a pigeon egg, and it was extremely dense. There seemed to be a blade of bluish gold and blue silver brass sealed within the soul core, and what was even more remarkable was that there seemed to be something revolving around the blade of blue silver brass like a shooting star. His soul core was finally complete, and his soul power had naturally also reached rank 60. He was now a soul emperor. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wuling's face, and he'd already prepared a soul ring for himself. He injected his will into the seed of nature, and at this point, the hibernating beautiful silk tulip had already been awake for quite a while. However, just as Tang Wuling was preparing to fuse with his third soul spirit and attain his sixth soul ring, his glabella suddenly lit up. In the beginning, it was just a faint speck of green light, but as soon as the speck of green light appeared, 5 soul rings immediately emerged beneath him. 4 of the soul rings were behaving in a very normal manner, but the 5th soul ring, the greenish golden one, was glowing far brighter than it usually did. The soul core that Tang Wuling had just attained suddenly pulsed ever so slightly, and he could sense that something seemed to have trembled deep within his soul core. His glabella also began to pulse along with his soul core, and the faint energy fluctuations emanating from his body suddenly became more intense. Tang Wuling felt a burst of unprecedented life force energy instantly encompass his entire body, nurturing every part of his being during the process. Rich life force energy began to erupt from his body in a frenzy, and for the first time, he truly sensed the existence of the seed of nature that the beautiful silk tulip had told him about. This was a seed that was entirely green in color, and it was like the most beautiful piece of green jade, shimmering with dazzling light within his glabella. A tiny little seedling was beginning to sprout from the green seed, and the seedling was of an extremely exuberant golden color. The fluctuations emanating from Tang Wuling's soul core had appeared because of this seed, and he was struck by a vague feeling that something extra had appeared within his own body. The rich life force energy continued to nurture his entire body, and even the dragon core within his chest was benefiting greatly as it also began to radiate scintillating light. Tang Wuling felt as if he were evolving. At the same time, this burst of life force energy was erupting from within his body in a completely uncontrollable manner, forming a greenish golden halo that was proliferating outward. In the air above, Blood One was already preparing to go back. Tang Wuling had absorbed such rich natural energies for such a long time, so he had to have forged a fantastic foundation for his soul core already. It was quite obvious that he was going to progress to rank 60 in soul power. For him to have attained a soul core as a mere soul emperor indicated that he was going to have an immeasurable future ahead of him, and that wasn't even taking into account his enormous bloodline power. However, right at this moment, Blood One's expression suddenly changed slightly as he abruptly sensed that something was happening to Tang Wuling. The absorption of natural energies temporarily ceased, but in the next instant, an indescribably enormous burst of vitality suddenly surged forth from down below. It was as if a spring of life had suddenly appeared beneath the earth. The water from the figurative spring of life instantly rose to the surface before surging toward all directions, and the entire Blood God Legion base was immediately enshrouded within this thriving vitality. Blood One had sensed this, and Jiang Wangyun and Blood Three had naturally also sensed this. It was very easy to sense the aura of the abyss here, but it was so very difficult to sense any vitality in this place. In this land of snow and ice, virtually no plants could survive, and one had to look beyond the entire sky and mountain ranges just to catch a glimpse of any greenery. However, the rich life force energy at this moment was extremely clear and pronounced. Blood One had only experienced this type of feeling deep within the Great Star Dou Forest. He turned to look at Jiang Wangyun, and both of them could see their own astonishment mirrored in one another's eyes. It was undoubtedly the case that his burst of life force energy would be extremely beneficial to all of them. The rich life force energy was nourishing their bodies, and both of them were already over 100 years of age, so the benefits of having such rich and pure life force energy nurture their bodies was simply unimaginable. They immediately began to absorb the life force energy that was spreading through the air, and at the same time, Jiang Wangyun bellowed a thunderous order that was audible throughout the entire Legion base. Everyone, meditate. They didn't know where this rich life force energy was coming from, but it definitely didn't originate from Tang Wuling's body alone. This life force energy was immensely beneficial to everyone, and absorbing it would enhance everyone's bodies. Even their soul power ranks and lifespans would be significantly increased. The effects of this were most apparent for those who were carrying chronic injuries or conditions. The life force energy became richer and richer, yet less than 20 seconds after this life force energy had appeared, a burst of extremely terrifying suction force suddenly erupted from down below. At this point, the natural energies that Blood One had gathered hadn't completely dissipated yet, and they were instantly drawn downward by the enormous suction force. The life force energy continued to be released, but the suction force that was acting on the natural energies gave even Blood One quite a fright. He felt as if even his own soul power were being sucked away. Give him all the energy he needs. Jiang Wangyun immediately yelled in a decisive manner. At the same time, he swept both hands through the air, releasing his own soul power to gather even more of the natural energies in the surrounding area. Blood One only reacted a split second slower than he did, and he also began to summon natural energies again. To them, only a very small portion of these natural energies could be absorbed during their cultivation, and it was extremely difficult for them to increase their powers. However, life force energy was completely different. Life force energy directly nurtured the very essence of the human body. Not only could it grant them more life force, thereby extending their lifespans, it could also enhance their bodies on a fundamental level. It was undoubtedly the case that among all types of energy, life energy stood at the very pinnacle. All life forms required life energy. Of course, that was only referring to the Douluo continent. The same didn't necessarily apply to the abyssal plane. There was no exchange more worthwhile than exchanging natural energies for enormous life force energy, which was why Jiang Wangyun had decided to fully support Tang Wuling's energy needs. Blood 3 was quite intelligent, and she also unleashed her own soul power to help gather natural energies. The natural energies vortex in the air immediately expanded to several times its original size under their combined efforts, drawing upon more and more natural energies for Tang Wuling to devour. Chapter 1002. There was no need for them to guide the natural energies in a downward direction, as the terrifying suction force down below was like a black hole that was absorbing the natural energies in a violent frenzy. Tang Wuling had no idea what was going on at this point as he temporarily lost control over his own body. He was unable to contact the beautiful silk tulip, and he felt as if a massive, bottomless black hole had opened up on his own forehead. The black hole was devouring all energies in the surrounding area in a ravenous frenzy, and all of that energy was being directed toward his seed of nature. The seed of nature was releasing rich life force energy to nurture his body, and this energy was also spreading outward to nourish everything else in the outside world. At the same time, it seemed to be struggling to search for something. The rich life force energy undoubtedly benefited Tang Wuling the most as it was only released after his body had absorbed the most essential part of the energy. Tang Wuling's greenish golden soul ring had become extremely exuberant at this point, and more than a third of the rich life force energy was being absorbed by the soul ring. Tang Wuling had initially completely given up on this soul ring, and he'd only ever been able to truly use it with the support of a limit Douluo. At the time, he had sensed that this greenish golden soul ring was able to control all of the plants in a vast area, then absorb an enormous amount of energy into his body. In his eyes, he may not be able to control that energy even after reaching the titled Douluo stage, let alone in his current form. However, right at this moment, he could clearly sense that the greenish golden soul ring was beginning to fuse with his body. He was beginning to be able to sense its power, and he could feel that he was gradually gaining the ability to control it. Was this a benefit of manifesting his soul core? Ultimately, regardless of how powerful the greenish golden soul ring was, it still existed as a subsidiary to his blue silver emperor martial soul. As such, the formation of his soul core had most likely had a certain stimulating effect on it. In any case, at this point in time, he had no control over his own body and could only sense the changes taking place in the outside world. At the same time, he could could feel his own body being nurtured by the life force energy he was absorbing, and both his soul core and dragon core were also being fortified. The dragon core displayed a very strong reaction to this life force energy. It was initially slightly smaller than his soul core, but after absorbing all of this life force energy, its size quickly caught up to that of his soul core. Life force energy acted as a bridge between the two major energy cores, allowing them to communicate for the very first time. There was no fusion between the different energies, but they were resonating with one another. Tang Wuling was sensing the changes taking place between them while being immersed in life force energy. He could clearly sense that his entire body was in a process of evolution, and he suddenly became aware of just how beautiful and profound life was. Time slowly passed by, and these feelings were only becoming more and more pronounced. At this very moment, all of the soldiers of the Blood God Legion were benefiting from this rich life force energy, and they were also experiencing changes within their own bodies. Long Yakshu was sitting on her bed with her legs crossed, and there was a layer of faint light emanating from her body. Her skin was becoming fairer and smoother, and she seemed to have become more beautiful. Her soul power was being elevated to a higher level, and her body was also changing in subtle ways through the nourishment of the life force energy. A layer of dark golden light was emanating from Jiang Wuyu's skin as he absorbed the life force energy in the air in a greedy manner, using it to nourish his body, which was already extremely powerful. He was always pushing his limits, so he had inevitably accumulated some chronic injuries and niggles over time. However, all of these chronic injuries were slowly but surely being healed by this life force energy. Ling Wuyu was also experiencing the nourishment of the life force energy. Her pursuit was extreme offensive prowess, and for the sake of this pursuit, she had even been willing to sacrifice her own defensive abilities. Her sharp boomerang had harmed her countless times while she was releasing it, and there were several dozens of unsightly scars on the surface of her skin beneath her clothes. However, at this moment, all of these scars were also gradually fading away under the effects of the life force energy. Every single member of the entire legion was also reveling in the benefits brought to them by the nourishing life force energy. At this point, Blood 2, Blood 4, Blood 5, Blood 6, Blood 7, Blood 8, and Blood 9, as well as all of the other titled Douluos in the legion had already risen up into the air. With their power levels, they didn't even need to meditate, and they could still absorb the extremely rich life force energy in the air. At the same time, all of them were also releasing their own powers to gather more natural energies even without being instructed to do so. Almost all of the natural energies within the entire sky and mountain ranges had already converged in the sky above the Blood God Legion base, and these energies were being devoured at a rapid rate. The richer the natural energies gathered, the more potent the life force energy being released became. There were even traces of greenery that were gradually beginning to emerge out of the thick snow on the ground below. In the beginning, no one had noticed them, but they soon became alerted to this as more and more specks of green began to appear on the snowy ground. Blood One's expression stiffened slightly, and there was an extremely spectacular look in Jiang Wanyun's eyes. They had never seen any traces of greenery in the sky and mountain ranges during the 6 decades that they'd been here. In order to allow their soldiers to still be able to experience greenery, they'd spent a huge sum of money to construct a greenhouse in the Legion base in order to nurture some plants. However, that was the extent of the greenery within the entire Legion base. However, at this very moment, specks of green were beginning to appear on the snowy ground of the sky and mountain ranges. They were only tiny seedlings, and no one even knew what kind of plants they were, but it was such a moving scene to witness them sprouting from the snow. What a beautiful green color. They may not be able to survive for long in the snow, but just the fact that they existed at all in this place still stunned all of the onlookers present. Under the continued injection of rich life force energy, these small green seedlings slowly began to grow, and even the frosty conditions were completely unable to suppress their growth. Instead, they were being nurtured by the rich water elements in the snow along with the life force energy. Sunlight and water were nourishing them in their growth, and the seedlings began to grow into saplings. These saplings were absorbing life force energy, but they were also guiding more natural energies toward the core where the life force energy was being released from. Ding! A shattering sound rang out within Tang Wuling's mind, and he could clearly see that the seed of nature seemed to have cracked open a little further. Under the nourishment of the life force energy, the tiny golden seedling that had sprouted from it struggled to squirm out of the seed, then gradually unfurled to reveal a golden leaf. The leaf was also very small, and it looked as if it could be snapped at the slightest touch, but the life force energy that was being released was becoming more and more powerful. The seed had germinated. Streaks of light silently appeared beside Tang Wuling. They were the 6 plant system soul beasts that he'd fused into his body. As soon as they emerged, they sat down around him with their legs crossed, silently absorbing the life force energy being released by the seed of nature. At the same time, they released their own auras to help the seed of nature purify the life force energy. Tang Wuling's greenish golden soul ring lit up even further, radiating scintillating light. He could suddenly sense the entirety of the sky and mountain ranges through the saplings that had just emerged from the snow. Time slowly passed by, and the output of life force energy continued. One leaf after another emerged from the seed of nature, and only after the 7th leaf appeared did the golden light abruptly recede, and at the same time, the release of life force energy also ceased. However, a 7-leaf golden insignia had appeared on Tang Wuling's forehead. The life force energy receded, and the natural energies also naturally dissipated. If one were to look down at the sky and mountain ranges from above, they discovered that saplings that were over a meter tall had appeared all over this world of snow and ice. Even though there was no way for them to truly survive in this harsh environment, at the very least, they had once existed here. They were like fireworks that had added a fleeting moment of beauty to the entire sky and mountain ranges. In the air above, the high-ranking officials of the Blood God Legion were taking one deep breath after another while opening up all of the pores all over their bodies to absorb the final traces of life force energy in the air. All of them looked as if they'd suddenly become more youthful. At this point, it was already noon. During the past few hours in which they'd been nourished by life force energy, not only had all of their chronic injuries and niggles disappeared, all of their lifespans had also been extended by at least 5 years. This was the main benefit of absorbing life force energy. Blood 1, Blood 3, and Jiang Wanyun had been here since the very beginning, so they had absorbed the purest life force energy, and as a result, they had reaped the greatest benefits among everyone. In particular, Jiang Wanyun was feeling extremely elated. His soul power rank had remained at 98 for several decades now, and that was exactly due to the fact that it would be very difficult for his body to handle the final breakthrough. Chapter 1003. However, following that period of life force energy absorption, he could sense that the massive bottleneck ahead of him was wavering slightly for the very first time. How could he not be excited? Make sure to thank that kid for me. Our Blood God Legion owes him a massive favor. Ask him if there's anything that he wants, and satisfy any of his requests as long as it's with reason. I have to go into seclusion for a while. Tianwu, I'll leave it to you to take care of the daily matters in my absence. After that, Jiang Wanyun's body vanished in a flash. After absorbing so much life force energy, everyone else also returned to their living quarters to cultivate and truly integrate everything that they'd absorbed into their bodies. The entire Blood God Legion had fallen silent as everyone was digesting the enormous life force energy that they'd absorbed. Countless green saplings were gently swaying in the frosty winds amid this world of snow and ice, and at the very least, they weren't going to disappear in the near future. Tang Wuling slowly opened his eyes, and his 5 soul rings silently faded, as did the light that was shimmering from his skin. He had never felt so wonderful before. Natural energies were pouring into his body with every single breath he took, and his bloodline fluctuations and soul power fluctuations were fusing together in perfect harmony, increasing his powers in a subtle manner. He could sense that a string of breakthroughs had taken place during his absorption of natural energies and life force energy, and even though he'd only just attained a soul core, his soul power rank had already reached 64. My lord, I'm ready to begin. The beautiful silk tulip rose to his feet before extending a respectful bow toward Tang Wuling, while the other plant system great beasts looked on with envy in their eyes. The seed of nature had sprouted 7 leaves, and they were now completely convinced that this son of nature was the real deal. Otherwise, how could he have germinated the seed of nature? If it weren't for the fact that this place was very ill suited for its growth, the seed of nature could have quite possibly taken advantage of this opportunity to take root here already. As the son of nature, he was one with the seed of nature, and as long as he was situated within a certain range of the seed of nature, he could directly draw upon natural energies through the power of the seed. Let's begin. Tang Wuling nodded at the beautiful silk tulip. The man nodded in response, and his body swayed as he instantly transformed into a massive purple flower. Flower petals flooded into the air before revolving around Tang Wuling. Powerful energy fluctuations surged through the air, and a peerlessly powerful aura was proliferating in all directions. A faint fragrance permeated throughout every single corner of the dormitory room. In order to fuse a soul spirit, both parties had to be completely ready and willing. It was undoubtedly the case that the beautiful silk tulip had already cast aside all inhibitions and wanted nothing more than to remain by Tang Wuling's side for the rest of its life. Pink light began to radiate from the massive flower, and everything seemed so natural, as if this was simply how things were meant to be. Tang Wuling's body had just been nourished by the seed of nature, so it was quite easy for him to accept even the power of this plant system great beast. With the seed of nature acting as a bridge between the two, the absorption process was as smooth could be. Tang Wuling's powerful physical constitution, plant system martial soul, and the seed of nature ensured an absolutely seamless fusion process. The flower petals began to slowly revolve around Tang Wuling while gradually shrinking in size. In the end, it transformed into a crimson ring of light, and the 5 soul rings appeared once again to intertwine their light with that of the crimson soul ring. Tang Wuling's aura elevated once again, and with the addition of the 100,000-year-old soul ring, his entire disposition had changed once again. There was now more of an ethereal quality about him, and at the same time, a faint fragrance was emanating from his body. After fusing with the beautiful silk tulip, he was now completely impervious to all poisons. This was a soul spirit fusion, so it didn't provide him with any soul bones, but the addition of this soul spirit was far more beneficial to him than any soul bone. He closed his eyes and entered a meditative state once again. The soul core in his dantian shuddered slightly, and rich soul power immediately began to circulate through his body according to the route stipulated by the mysterious heaven method. His dragon core also resonated at the same time, and his bloodline power began to circulate in an anti-clockwise direction. The two types of powers were circulating in opposite directions, and they were naturally forming a brand new vortex within Tang Wuling's body. All of the natural energies in the air naturally converged toward him, and Tang Wuling had reason to believe that his progression from rank 60 to rank 70 in soul power was very likely going to take the shortest amount of time among all of his major breakthroughs. Now that he had fused with a 100,000-year-old soul spirit, his soul power had increased once again, and it was elevated directly to rank 65. During the past few months, he'd already caught up to the average standard among his friends. Furthermore, his overall powers had improved far more than just the degree that his soul power had improved by. As for just how much more powerful he'd become, that was something that he'd have to ascertain through practical combat. Only through battles would he be able to consolidate the enhancements he'd received. After such an extensive period of adaptation, his soul power vortex had finally made a breakthrough, and he was now a high-grade soul master. This laid a strong foundation for his future rise to the very top. Only after an entire day did the Blood God Legion begin to gradually reawaken. This was undoubtedly a very wonderful feeling. Everyone felt as if they had been reborn anew after being nourished by the life force energy. When Tang Wuling appeared in the Blood God Battalion again, Blood One was already waiting for him. I know I shouldn't ask, but I still can't help but wonder, where did all that life force energy come from? Blood One appraised Tang Wuling with a curious look on his face. Blood 3 was also standing beside him, and among all of the Blood Gods, these two had benefited the most from Tang Wuling's breakthrough. After a brief moment of contemplation, Tang Wuling asked, "Are you too familiar with the ancient golden tree?" Blood 3's expression immediately changed as she exclaimed, "Of course, but wasn't the ancient golden tree already?" Tang Wuling nodded and explained, "The ancient golden tree was the core of nature. I don't know where it came from, but it was most likely left behind by a certain forefather of ours from Shrek Academy. I received the ancient golden tree's assistance by chance, and it granted me the power to be close with nature. Perhaps that was because I'm a plant system soul master. During the explosion on that day, the golden tree gave me its seed right before it was destroyed, and the seed has been nurtured within my body this entire time. When I attained a soul core, the seed awakened, and that was why such rich life force energy had been released. At the same time, it allowed me to absorb a vast amount of natural energies. This place isn't a suitable place for it to grow. After we rebuild Shrek Academy, it will continue to be the core of the academy." Tang Wuling spoke the last sentence with great conviction in his voice, and Blood 3's hand involuntarily flew to her mouth as tears began to flow uncontrollably down her face. As a former high-ranking member of Shrek Academy, how could she not be aware of the existence of the ancient golden tree? That was the foundation of the Sea God's Pavilion, and it could be said that the Sea God's Pavilion only existed because of the golden tree. The golden tree hadn't completely perished. It had left behind a seed, so there was a chance for it to be reborn. What could make her more excited than this? If the ancient golden tree could be replanted, then there really was a chance that the academy could be revived. Blood One was also astonished to hear this. The ancient golden tree was once the true core of Shrek Academy, and without its protection, Tang Wuling and the others wouldn't have been able to survive that attack. Who would have thought that it had the ability to leave behind a seed? This was fantastic news. One had to realize that the ancient golden tree was the guardian deity of the entirety of Shrek City at the time, so even the Tang Sect headquarters had been under its protection. It was just that the enemy attack at the time had been far too powerful. The destructive power of 2 Godslayer missiles had far surpassed the limit of its tolerance capacity. A hint of sorrow flashed through Tang Wuling's eyes. If it weren't for the fact that the ancient golden tree had given him a third of its energy, perhaps it would have been powerful enough to avert that massive disaster. His heart had been racked with guilt ever since the bombing, so he was going to help the seed of nature grow up again no matter what. Chapter 1004. Blood One took a meaningful glance at Tang Wuling and said, "The transformation that the seed of the ancient golden tree has undergone has benefited the entire legion immensely. Everyone was nourished by its life force energy, and they've all become more powerful as a result. What reward would you like for this?" "Reward? I get a reward for this. You were the one who helped me gather so much natural energy, right? I don't really think I can bring myself to ask for a reward. Can I ask for anything I want?" Tang Wuling's eyes were practically glowing. Blood One had a smile on his face during the first half of Tang Wuling's words, but the conclusion had him at a complete loss for whether he should laugh or cry. "You really are a greedy little rascal. That's not entirely a bad thing. Oh, Jiang Wanyun was the one who said that you can choose any reward you want, as long as it's within reason. In the beginning, I was the one who helped you gather natural energies, but after that, everyone chipped in along the way. The seed of the golden tree has absorbed an extremely enormous amount of energy. It sucked away all of the natural energies within at least 500 square kilometers. If you had made your breakthrough anywhere else, you would have definitely attracted a lot of attention. Indeed, the extremely sparsely populated sky and mountain ranges had been a perfect location for his breakthrough. If he had made his breakthrough in a place with higher population density, then there was no way that he would have been able to absorb such an enormous amount of natural energy so easily. As for a reward, can I ask for a promotion? I've already qualified for the finals for both Soul Master and Mega Battles, so isn't it about time I received a promotion?" Tang Wuling asked in a careful manner. Blood One couldn't help but smile upon hearing this. "Is a promotion that important to you? What I really want to know is why you want to be promoted so badly." Tang Wuling replied, "Officials above the major rank get leave, don't they?" Blood One faltered slightly upon hearing this, and Blood 3 couldn't help but burst into laughter. "You want to be promoted just so you can take some leave? Members of our Blood God Battalion also get 1 day of leave per week. You can also save up your leave days and use them all at once for an extended holiday. Even though you're only a fringe member, you're entitled to that right as well." "Huh?" Tang Wuling had no idea that members of the Blood God Battalion were entitled to a privilege like this. Blood One couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of his flabbergasted expression. "Do you still want that promotion, then?" Tang Wuling gritted his teeth and replied, "Yes." The Blood God Legion could only offer him resources or a promotion as a reward. He could exchange his forging accolades for resources, but he could only receive promotions from the Blood God Battalion. Blood One nodded and said, "All right, then a promotion is what you'll get. Jiang Wanyun is still in seclusion, but as long as there's a proper reason, our Blood God Battalion can also hand out promotions to our members. The battle accolades you've accumulated are already enough to promote you to captain rank. On top of that, you made it to the finals of both battle disciplines, and with your current powers, you'll be a strong contender for the top 3. So I'll give you the reward I promised you, which is a promotion to the major rank, early. On this occasion, the life force energy you brought to the Legion benefited everyone immensely and extended everyone's lifespans by at least 5 years while also healing many people's chronic injuries. This is a massive contribution that you've made to the entire Legion, and if we were to convert that into accolades, it would definitely be an astronomical number. Instead of going through the trouble to calculate the number of accolades you should receive, I'll just give you a promotion of 2 further ranks, which is something that's virtually unprecedented. Hence, you're going to be directly promoted to the colonel rank. Are you willing to accept this as your reward?" "Yes." Tang Wuling blurted out almost without any hesitation, and even his voice had raised a few octaves. How could he be unwilling to accept this reward? What could possibly be better than this? This was the colonel rank. He had essentially just been launched up the ranks on a jetpack. This was the equivalent of being promoted from a lowly platoon leader directly to a corps commander. He was now even a rank above Jiang Wuyu. What a satisfying thought that was. Blood One smiled and nodded as he said, "Very good. I'll arrange a promotion ceremony for you. You can go now. Thank you." Tang Wuling stood up straight before extending a military salute. Blood One smiled and nodded in response. Thus, Tang Wuling left in an excited manner. He was going to practice his spear techniques. He had manifested a soul core and become a lot more powerful than before. He was going to see if he had also made a breakthrough in his spear techniques. Blood 3 looked on as Tang Wuling entered the elevators in an elated manner before turning to Blood 1 with a conflicted look on her face. Haven't you always been looking out for his best interests? Is it really good to screw him over like this? Blood 1 chuckled. How am I screwing him over? He chose the reward himself. I didn't force him to choose this. Blood 3 heaved a resigned sigh. But according to what the Legion commander told us, we were permitted to give him the highest reward available in our Legion, which is a Red Mecha. Our Blood God battalion doesn't have any troops under its command, so a military rank is just a title that doesn't really do anything. It can't even begin to compare with a Red Mecha. Blood 1 smiled and said, I'm naturally aware of that, but giving him a Red Mecha now may not be a good thing. He's developing too quickly. He needs more time to accumulate experience. Even if he does come into possession of a Red Mecha in the future, I want him to construct it through his own efforts, rather than just have one handed to him. He did indeed benefit the entire Legion on this occasion, but that wasn't actually his own power. If I give him too much, I'm afraid that his ego will become overinflated. He had a very calm and steadfast personality, which is very rare and valuable, and I don't want to do anything to change that. Blood 3 sighed, but you and I both know the severity of the hardships that he'll face in the future. If he possesses a divine mecha, that'll at least be an extra layer of protection. Blood 1 shook his head with a serious expression as he counted. The only thing that will truly keep him safe is his own powers. Mechas are indeed very useful, but for soul masters like us, we have to rely on our own powers if we want to make it to the very top. I see the potential in him to become more than just the limit Douluo. He was chosen by the seed of nature. Think about it. Where did the ancient golden tree come from? It came from a place that can only be reached by gods. He received the approval of the ancient golden tree, which is the equivalent of approval from the seed of nature. He is the hope of nature on this entire continent. When you take all that into account, it's very likely that his future lies. He pointed directly upward as he spoke. A stunned expression appeared on Blood 3's face. Is that really possible? Blood 1 replied, I don't know, but if there's any possibility at all, then it can only lie with him. I have absolute confidence in him. Blood 3 took a deep breath, and only now did she realize just how high a regard Blood 1 held Tang Wuling in. Tang Wuling had no idea what he had just missed out on. He rushed directly over to the gravity training chamber, then pulled out his golden dragon spear and continued to practice his spear techniques. In doing so, he quickly discovered that he had changed, and this change was a positive one that he had been anticipating for a long time. He held onto his golden dragon spear, and as he unleashed his first thrust, both his dragon core and soul core naturally exuded their auras. At this moment, Tang Wuling could sense the strange vortex that had appeared in between his two major energy vortexes, releasing a burst of power into his spear. This was the perfect fusion between his blood essence power and soul power. The spear projection released by the spear had changed from its original dazzling golden color into a platinum color. Under normal circumstances, if he were to refrain from using any soul skills, a 3-foot spear projection would be naturally released by a thrust from his golden dragon spear. However, on this occasion, the spear projection was over 7 feet in length. That was only a casual strike that he unleashed without actively drawing on any of his own power. This meant that not only had his spear projection undergone a qualitative change, its power had been enhanced by at least twofold. On top of that, the platinum spear projection had to be different from his past golden spear projection. This was a massively pleasant surprise. His powers had increased considerably, and when he injected his power into his golden dragon spear, he was able to gain a better and more profound understanding of this divine weapon. It seemed that the more energy he injected into the golden dragon spear, the more of its own power it was able to unleash. He unleashed one spear thrust after another, and platinum spear projection surged through the air. When Tang Wuling unleashed a spear strike with all his might, the spear projection exceeded 100 meters in length and almost punctured the training chamber. Tang Wuling could feel his bloodline churning with excitement. Had he already become this powerful? However, this was a training chamber, so he didn't dare to unleash his full power. He had to go to the Star Battle Net. That was the only place where he could unleash the full extent of his powers without any inhibitions. What are you up to? Will you? If you're free. How about a sparring match in the Star Battle Net? My cultivation's been going pretty well recently. Are you up for a battle? Oh. Your cultivation's been going quite well. That's great. Are you paying? What do you mean we'll split it 50-50? We're friends, aren't we? You can pay for the sparring match. Don't worry about me. I won't feel bad. Hey, don't hang up. Fine, we'll split it 50-50. It was becoming harder and harder to convince Jiang Wuyu to pay for him in anything. This guy was becoming more and more cunning by the day. If Jiang Wuyu could hear what Tang Wuling was thinking, then he'd immediately tell Tang Wuling that he was only learning from him. Tang Wuling logged onto the Star Battle Net first and waited for Jiang Wuyu at the agreed location. Even though there were no competition matches being held, the Star Battle Net was very popular in the Legion, so Jiang Wuyu would most definitely still have to line up. Only after Tang Wuling had waited for half an hour did he finally turn up. What took you so long? Tang Wuling asked. Chapter 1005. Jiang Wuyu scoffed. Do you think all of us are part of your Blood God battalion? We don't all have private star cabins at our disposal. Do you know how envious I am? I'm going to buy one once I save up enough accolades, but it's so expensive. It costs 8,000 accolades. I really don't want to splurge so much. Tang Wuling chuckled. Then you'll have to make do with lining up. Let's cut the chit-chat and get straight into it. Jiang Wuyu harumphed coldly. I'm gonna beat you so hard that you'll be crawling around, picking up your teeth from the ground when I'm done with you. I'm telling you, on that day when that enormous burst of life force energy appeared in our Legion on that day, my powers have enjoyed a qualitative boost. I made a massive breakthrough and formed my soul vortex. With my soul vortex for support, my tyrant dragon is going to become several times more powerful, and I'll never have to worry about running out of energy ever again. Just you wait. Hee. Tang Wuling merely smiled with a completely innocent and harmless look on his face. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not afraid of receiving beatings. Being beaten will only help me grow and develop. Jiang Wuyu urged. Let's go. The two of them issued 2,000 federal credits, and light flashed, following which they entered the competition venue. Jiang Wuyu was clearly brimming with excitement due to his recent breakthrough, and as soon as the electronic voice rang out, he immediately released his martial soul and battle armor. Dark golden light swept over his entire body, and Tang Wuling could see a powerful dark golden vortex of light taking shape in front of him. As the vortex emerged, Jiang Wuyu swelled to over 8 meters tall while his thick and heavy suit of two-word battle armor encapsulated his entire body. A fearlessly devastating aura instantly erupted from within his body. His soul power vortex rotated at a rapid rate at his behest, and even the surrounding air was showing signs of being shattered in the face of the terrifying energy fluctuations emanating from his body. Jiang Wuyu said in a smug manner, the soul power vortex that I formed is different from the normal soul power vortex. Due to the tolerance capacity of my body, my soul power vortex rotates at least 3 times faster than that of the average cell master. It provides me with an extremely enormous amount of power, and those enhancements go directly to my strength, so my strength has also tripled. You may have had superior strength to me in the past, but there's no way you can beat me on this occasion. Come at me. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wuling's face, and golden light shimmered all over his body as he summoned his suit of two-word battle armor. His visor descended over his face with a crisp click, and at the same time, his golden dragon spear appeared in his hand. He swept his spear through the air beside him, and a 7-foot platinum spear projection erupted from its front tip. Jiang Wuyu let loose a thunderous roar before storming toward Tang Wuling. He extended his hands, and a pair of giant hammers appeared in his grasp. As the hammers were swung through the air, powerful dark golden light instantly erupted from them, and they were sent crashing down toward Tang Wuling like a pair of miniature shooting stars. He hadn't been exaggerating. The power behind his hammers had indeed more than tripled. The attack was so formidable that even a 3-word battle armor master would be reluctant to take it head on. Tang Wuling's eyes narrowed slightly as faint golden light rose up from his battle armor, and in the next instant, he sprang into action. The dragon wings on his back were abruptly withdrawn, and when he tapped his foot against the ground, his entire body seemed to have suddenly lit up. The wings on his back only flapped ever so slightly, and in the next instant, Jiang Wuyu was greeted by the sight of a streak of light hurtling toward him. An indescribably sharp sensation flashed past. The power within his hammers mana seemed to have instantly dissipated, and even his rapidly rotating soul power vortex had momentarily stopped rotating. Throughout this entire process, all Jiang Wuyu saw was a streak of platinum light flash past. After that, Tang Wuling vanished into thin air. Immediately thereafter, he discovered that he had lost control over his soul power vortex. Boom. A violent explosion erupted, and Jiang Wuyu's body vanished amid a howl of anguish. Only then did the golden light emanating from Tang Wuling's body slowly recede. The crystalline substantial-looking sphere projection of the platinum golden dragon sphere also gradually faded away. In the instant prior to Jiang Wuyu's self-detonation, a massive hole with a diameter of over a meter had been punctured through his massive body. Even his suit of two-way battle armor hadn't been able to reduce the size of the wound. Light flashed, and Tang Wuling re-emerged from the combat area before he had a chance to even reflect on the battle. Jiang Wuyu was standing rooted to the spot with a completely dumbstruck look on his face. Just as Tang Wuling hadn't had a chance to completely experience the changes in his powers during that battle, Jiang Wuyu had also yet to completely return to his senses in the aftermath of that battle's sudden conclusion. What just happened? He had improved so significantly during the past few days. How had the battle concluded so quickly? He didn't even see any wounds on his body before he was teleported out of the combat area. Wuling, you came out as well. What just happened in there? Did the Star Battle.net malfunction? Jiang Wuyu turned to Tang Wuling with a perplexed expression. Tang Wuling blinked and replied, I don't know. I was suddenly teleported out of the combat area as well. It seems like our match came to a premature end as soon as we clashed. Jiang Wuyu's brows furrowed tightly as he mused. I haven't heard about any issues with the Star Battle.net. If something really has happened to it, then the Federation will be in quite a bit of trouble. Let's try that again. He voluntarily issued 2,000 federal credits as he spoke, and the two of them arrived on the competition platform once again. Light flashed, and both of them appeared at the same time. The electronic countdown commenced, and everything seemed to be the same as before. It doesn't feel like anything's changed. So what was that error all about, Ben? Jiang Wuyu turned to Tang Wuling with a confused expression. Tang Wuling replied, maybe we should try battling again. Jiang Wuyu nodded, and replied, all right, let's go again. He released his battle armor and martial soul as he spoke, and 6 soul rings emerged around his body. He then swelled drastically in size, and a pair of giant hammers appeared in his grasp as he charged toward Tang Wuling amid a roar of fury. Tang Wuling also donned his suit of battle armor and summoned his golden dragon spear. The platinum spear projection appeared once again. With the experience that he'd just accumulated, his essence, energy, and spirit instantly fused as one. Dazzling light erupted from his 2 major energy cores, forming a yin-yang energy vortex. His platinum spear projection abruptly elongated, and when he began to rush toward Jiang Wuyu, the golden light shimmering from his body had become noticeably brighter. During their last sparring match, he had unleashed his golden dragon takes flight to enhance his own speed. With the yin-yang vortex as support, the golden dragon takes flight had become a lot more powerful than before, and that, in conjunction with his incredibly sharp spear intent, had allowed him to puncture Jiang Wuyu's body in one fell swoop. On this occasion, he didn't even bother to use his golden dragon takes flight and merely charged straight toward Jiang Wuyu. However, when he tapped his feet against the ground to accelerate, his speed had increased to more than twice as fast as before, and he reached Jiang Wuyu in a flash. On this occasion, Tang Wuling was carefully sensing the changes taking place within his body. Just as Jiang Wuyu's hammers were about to strike his body, the dual cores within his body began to glow even brighter, and he abruptly flapped his dragon wings for a second acceleration. In doing so, he was able to pass through right in between the 2 hammers, following which his platinum spear projection struck Jiang Wuyu's suit of battle armor. The defenses of a tyrant dragon in conjunction with a suit of 2-word battle armor posed quite a stern obstacle, but in the face of Tang Wuling's platinum spear projection, everything seemed to have simply melted away before silently flowing along his spearhead. Light flashed, and Tang Wuling landed on the ground. Without the enhancement of his golden dragon takes flight, this battle lasted a little longer than the previous one. At the very least, Jiang Wuyu had enough time to process the intense agony that his body had been afflicted by. He looked down to examine himself, and only after he caught sight of the gaping hole in his chest did the electronic voice ring out again. The match is over. Little Tang wins. Light flashed, and the two of them were teleported out of the competition venue in quick succession. Outside the combat area, Jiang Wuyu wore a completely flabbergasted expression, while Tang Wuling adopted his harmless look once again. What just happened? That really hurt. Did you beat me? Jiang Wuyu was finally beginning to catch on. Tang Wuling blinked in response. Did I win? Everything ended so quickly. I didn't even feel anything. How did I win? Exactly. How did you win? Jiang Wuyu's expression was filled with befuddlement. He didn't even consider the possibility that a fellow 2-word battle armor master would be able to instantly puncture his defenses, which was why he still hadn't figured out what was going on, even though he had felt pain on this occasion. Tang Wuling adopted a serious expression as he said, it looks like there are some major issues plaguing the battle.net. We have to experiment a few more times, so we can make a timely report to the Legion if there really is an issue. Let's go again. I'll pay this time. Despite how stingy Tang Wuling was, he had offered to pay on this occasion, and that, coupled with his serious expression, convinced Jiang Wuyu that there was indeed something wrong with the battle.net. Thus, the two of them entered the competition venue again. 1 minute later, the two of them were teleported out one after another. Holy crap. That really hurt. What happened just now? What was that platinum spear projection of yours? I made sure to pay close attention on this occasion, and I saw that your golden dragon spear punctured a hole into my chest. What's going on? Are you exploiting a glitch in the battle.net? That's cheating. Jiang Wuyu accused in a furious manner. Tang Wuling was struggling to repress his mirth, and he coughed as he replied, I'm not. How could I be exploiting a glitch in the battle.net? This is the newest technology from the Federation. Could it be that the problem lies with you? Maybe your defenses have become weaker, or perhaps something's wrong with your cultivation, thereby weakening your defenses. Chapter 1006. Jiang Wuyu's brows furrowed tightly. Is that a possibility? But I felt really good during those battles. If you ask me, my defenses have clearly become more powerful. How could they be weaker? Tang Wuling shrugged in response. That's beyond me. This is a major problem. It doesn't matter in the battle.net, but if this problem arises when you're battling abyssal creatures, you'll be in a lot of trouble. This is a matter of life and death. How about we go in again so you can assess how your defenses have changed? Jiang Wuyu immediately nodded as a slightly tense expression appeared on his face. All right, let's go again, but take it easy this time and don't attack me so quickly. The two of them entered the competition platform again. Jiang Wuyu slammed one of his own giant hammers viciously into his chest to test out his own defenses, as well as that of his battle armor, and the tense look in his eyes immediately vanished. My defenses are really normal. Look, that hammer blow packed at least several dozens of tons of impact, but I'm completely fine. Haha, I knew there wasn't an issue with me. Let's go again. This time, I'm sure. 1 minute later. Tang, Wu, Lin. Jiang Wuyu was glowering at Tang Wuling in a furious manner as he yelled, there's something off about that spear of yours, and your strength is also different. My hammer struck your golden dragon spear just now. How was it repelled so easily? And you even left such a deep indentation on my hammer. My defenses are completely ineffective against your golden dragon spear. You cut through me like a hot knife through butter. What the hell happened? Tang Wuling blinked, and he was just about to say something when Jiang Wuyu continued. Don't tell me you don't know what happened. I know you know what's going on. You're a sly little bastard on the inside. You had to have known what was going on from the very beginning, right? There's nothing wrong with the Star Battle.net, is there? The problem here is that your abilities have evolved. Jiang Wuyu had quite a simple and straightforward personality, but for him to have reached this point in his military career indicated that he was definitely not an idiot. After experimenting on several occasions and making an active effort to observe Tang Wuling's spear, he finally realized that he'd been swindled. This guy knew what was going on from the very beginning, but tricked him over and over again into agreeing to be a human target. However, at the same time, he was extremely stunned. His defensive prowess definitely stood at the very pinnacle of all Soul Emperors, yet Tang Wuling's attacks were so devastating that they rendered his defenses completely ineffective. Even the average Soul Douluo couldn't accomplish this. Even in the first few matches, where he had underestimated Tang Wuling a little, he still had to possess extremely formidable offensive prowess to break through his defenses. Jiang Wuyu was completely unable to comprehend this, but this was the truth. Nonetheless, Tang Wuling put on an innocent expression and argued, that's not true. I don't know what happened either. I did make a minor breakthrough, but that doesn't explain why there's such a huge disparity between our powers. Surely the problem here is that you've become weaker. Don't try to feed me that nonsense. I formed a soul power vortex, so I'll definitely be attaining a soul core in the future. How could I have become weaker? Jiang Wuyu countered in an enraged voice. A smug expression suddenly appeared on Tang Wuling's face, and he goaded, then that means I've become more powerful. There's no need for you to be so upset. You can just admit it if you're scared. Don't worry, I won't look down on you. We'll still be friends. Scared? I ain't scared. I'm just unfamiliar with your new abilities. Zhang Wuyu was becoming even more enraged. TCH, you don't even dare to fight me anymore, and you're trying to convince me that you're not scared. We've fought quite a few times now, so you should be accustomed to my new powers, right? Do you dare to go again? Tang Wuyin intentionally put on a proud expression as he spoke. Come at me. You must be playing some kind of trick. You're paying this time. No problem. Tang Wuyin agreed without any hesitation, and two of them entered the competition venue again. 2 minutes later, light flashed, and Zhang Wuyu's body swayed as he emerged. A hint of astonishment flashed through his eyes. Tang Wuyin re-emerged right after him with a smug expression on his face. I told you were too weak. You're no match for me now. He flexed his bicep to Zhang Wuyu as he spoke. That's impossible. I don't believe this. Let's go again. Another 2 minutes later. Again. 2 minutes passed once again. I give up. Zhang Wuyu was looking at Tang Wuyin with a dejected expression on his face. He could attribute 1 or 2 losses to errors or complacency, but how could he explain being beaten close to 10 times in a row? This guy was like a literal monster. His strength, speed, defenses, and offensive prowess, all of it had far exceeded Zhang Wuyu's. No matter how he looked at it, the golden dragon spear shouldn't have been a heavy weapon, but it was always able to sway his giant hammers aside with ease. He had always been very proud of his own defensive prowess, but his defenses posed no impediment to Tang Wuyin whatsoever. All he needed was a single opportunity to strike, and Zhang Wuyu was dead. What was even more terrifying was his spear intent. Every time he released his spear intent, Zhang Wuyu would instantly be struck by a bone-chilling sensation, and he felt as if his entire body had been punctured. In the face of such an indomitable opponent, even his powerful battle intent was quickly being worn down. If he were to keep engaging in these sparring matches, his confidence would be completely shattered, so he was unwilling to continue. Are you all right, Wuyu? Tang Wuyin approached him with a concerned expression. Go away. Zhang Wuyu was panting heavily as he attempted to recover from the agony that he'd just been afflicted with. Tang Wuyin sighed. I didn't know things were going to turn out like this. Am I this powerful already? I'm sorry, Wuyu. I know that an excessive gap between our powers will make you feel inferior, but there's no helping it. It's all right, though. Keep working hard, and don't feel inferior. Who's feeling inferior? You're the inferior one. Zhang Wuyu couldn't help but flare up with rage. Tang Wuyin shrugged in response. You don't even dare to continue, and you're trying to convince me that you're not feeling inferior. Who says I don't dare to continue? Zhang Wuyu's eyes instantly widened with rage, but all of a sudden, a placid look suddenly appeared on his face, and he harumphed. That's not working on me again. I won't fall for your dirty tricks. You're just trying to goad me again like the sly bastard that you are. I ain't falling for it anymore. Tang Wuyin shrugged. Suit yourself. I was going to give you an opportunity to restore your confidence by refraining from using my battle armor in the next battle, but if you don't want to, then so be it. Let's get out of here. Wait. Are you serious? You won't use your battle armor? Zhang Wuyu immediately grabbed onto Tang Wulin's arm. I am. Tang Wuyin said with an earnest expression. I have to give you a chance to restore your confidence, but I don't think that's needed anymore. You look like you're still quite lively, so I don't have to cop a beating from you now. No. You're a good guy, Wulin. Come on, let's go again. I'll pay this time. After entering the competition venue, the two of them faced one another, and a smile had already appeared on Tang Wulin's face. Zhang Wuyu appraised him with an intense gaze, and said, you better keep your promise. Don't use your battle armor. Of course. Tang Wuyin nodded in response. 3, 2, 1, begin. As soon as the countdown concluded, Zhang Wuyu released his martial soul and battle armor again, raising his power to its very maximal extent. Tang Wuyin couldn't help but internally praise Zhang Wuyu. If he were facing anyone else, then he definitely wouldn't goad them into battling him over and over again, even though he really did require a powerful opponent to fight against so he could consolidate his newfound powers. However, Zhang Wuyu was different as he possessed the most powerful battle intent that Tang Wuyin had ever seen. Furthermore, he was always able to brush off setbacks and possessed excellent mental fortitude, thereby allowing him to constantly grow stronger in the face of adversity. Sure enough, Tang Wuyin didn't release his battle armor. He held his golden dragon spear by his side, and 4 golden soul rings rose up from beneath his feet before revolving around his body. The first golden soul ring lit up, and it was none other than his golden dragon body. Golden scales appeared all over his entire body, and even though the enhancements he received weren't as pronounced as those from his battle armor, the dragon scales still enhanced his powers considerably. Chapter 1007. In the next instant, his dragon scales began to emanate a platinum light, and he tapped his foot gently against the ground. He didn't have access to his wings on this occasion, but he immediately unleashed his golden dragon takes flight. A pair of faint shimmering wings appeared on his back, and he instantly reached Zhang Wuyu before sweeping his golden dragon spear upward to meet Zhang Wuyu's twin hammers. A crisp clang rang out, and without his suit of battle armor, the situation had indeed taken a turn. Zhang Wuyu's hammers were only flicked upward by his spear, but not completely flung away. However, right at this moment Tang Wuling suddenly let loose a thunderous roar. It was his golden dragon roar. A massive golden dragon head erupted from his body, swelling to a diameter of over 5 meters before letting loose an almighty roar of fury. Zhang Wuyu wasn't far away from the golden dragon head, and he was immediately struck by an extremely terrifying burst of pressure and sound waves. His body rushed back in retreat, and his mind had gone completely blank while his bloodline was being completely and utterly dominated. Tang Wuling hovered in midair, and a scorching white light erupted from the golden dragon spear in his hand. He thrust his spear forward, and his spear intent manifested into a 30-meter-long spear projection that instantly reached Zhang Wuyu. In the face of this attack, his suit of battle armor naturally exhibited an emergency response, releasing a protective barrier while also stimulating him to return to his senses. He reflexively raised his hammers to shield himself. Boom! The platinum spear projection punctured through the first hammer and forced the second hammer to crash directly into Zhang Wuyu's chest. His vision went dark for an instant from the force of the impact, and his battle armor was almost shattered. Immediately thereafter, Tang Wuling flicked his spear, and a massive golden dragon rose up into the air amid a thunderous dragon's roar. The golden dragon instantly caught up to Zhang Wuyu before slamming him into the ground. Zhang Wuyu only barely had enough time to unleash a soul skill, conjuring up a layer of dark golden light around himself to oppose the golden dragon. Boom! Zhang Wuyu's body was sent flying, and his soul skill was completely shattered. Tang Wuling's body flashed, and he instantly appeared above Zhang Wuyu. Countless shimmering gold and blue silver emperor vines surged forth toward the direction that the golden dragon spear was pointing in, and it was as if there were hundreds of golden dragon spears thrusting toward Zhang Wuyu in unison. This was his golden dragon impaling array. Zhang Wuyu felt as if he'd been slammed into a bed of nails, and his body instantly stiffened as countless puncture wounds were inflicted upon him. Immediately thereafter, Tang Wuling swept his golden dragon spear through the air, and brilliant golden light appeared around his body. It was none other than his violent golden dragon domain. However, now that Zhang Wuyu was his enemy, the domain was debilitating him rather than providing enhancements. Countless streaks of light suddenly erupted from the golden dragon spear in his hand, and every single one of those streaks of light seemed to have a blue silver emperor vine adhered to it. The streaks of light then instantly combined as one, and the platinum spear projection immediately began to radiate scintillating light that illuminated the entire competition platform. It then thrust forward in a diagonal downward direction, and to Zhang Wuyu, it felt as if the surrounding air had already completely transformed into spear intent. Several hundred spears instantly fused as one, and during this process, the surrounding air was also compressed to several hundredths of its original mass, and the sound of Zhang Wuyu's bones being crushed and broken rang out as the air compressed around him. When that spear thrust finally reached him, he felt as if every single part of his being, both his body and even his soul, had already been punctured. Thump! Zhang Wuyu was nailed straight onto the ground, and the platinum spear projection abruptly exploded, reducing his body to dust. Fury of the masses. Tang Wuling was ecstatic. He still couldn't manifest that many substantial spear projections, but with the assistance from his blue silver emperor vines, he was finally able to use a part of the power of Fury of the masses. This attack was the closest he'd ever been to unleashing Fury of the masses. It was still very far away from the complete version of Fury of the masses, but he had found the feeling that he'd been searching for. Following his extensive period of spear practice and the formation of his soul core, he finally made a qualitative improvement. Furthermore, after attaining his soul core, the yin-yang vortex that had been produced by his 2 major energy cores was able to significantly decrease his energy expenditure from using his blood soul fusion skills. If he could only use his blood soul fusion skills 3 times in the past, then after attaining his soul core, he was now able to use those blood soul fusion skills 10 times or perhaps even more. After Tang Wuling left the competition platform, he was greeted by the sight of Zhang Wuyu, who was standing rooted to the spot with a soulless expression on his face. Tang Wuling was quite alarmed to see this. Fury of the masses targeted the opponent's spiritual power as well, so could it be that Zhang Wuyu's soul had been damaged? In that case, things would become very troublesome. Thankfully, the star battle net protected its users to an extremely great extent, so So moments later, Zhang Wuyu's body began to tremble slightly. As the trembling became more intense, a hint of life began to return to his eyes. He stumbled and sat directly down onto the ground while gasping for air with a horrified look in his eyes. How could this be? How is this possible? He had been completely and utterly defeated. From the instant that Tang Wuling began to attack, he had been completely dominated until the conclusion of the battle. Even though Tang Wuling hadn't unleashed a blood-soul fusion skill with every attack, under the effects of his yin-yang vortex, his martial soul and bloodline were fused as one to begin with, and the two of them shared a symbiotic relationship. Even though he only possessed the soul power of a soul emperor, his rank 65 soul power wasn't far off from Zhang Wuyu's soul power rank. Furthermore, he had a bloodline advantage, and his blood-soul fusion skills were extremely devastating. So even though he hadn't donned his suit of battle armor, Zhang Wuyu was still comprehensively crushed. Never would Zhang Wuyu have thought that this was possible, yet this was the reality, and he had no choice but to believe it. Are you alright, Wuyu? Tang Wuling asked in a concerned voice. He was truly concerned this time. Don't talk to me. Zhang Wuyu wore a speechless look on his face. Tang Wuling sat down beside him and said, pressure can be motivation when used correctly. A spring may be soft, but the more pressure it's placed under, the stronger it rebounds. You possess brilliant aptitude, but fighting me is completely unfair to you due to our bloodlines. If I didn't have this bloodline advantage over you, there wouldn't be such a large disparity between our powers. He was being completely genuine on this occasion, and he knew that goading Zhang Wuyu any further would be going too far. Get away from me. Zhang Wuyu grumbled. I'm never fighting you again no matter what you say. I have to go back and think carefully about this. There must be something that I'm missing. He clambered to his feet as he spoke before walking away. Tang Wuling scratched his head as he looked on at Zhang Wuyu's departing figure. It wouldn't be easy to get Zhang Wuyu to spar with him again in the future. In any case, it really did appear that he was no longer a match for him anyway. Following these sparring matches with Zhang Wuyu, Tang Wuling had completely identified his current situation. He had attained a soul core, and the two major energy cores had formed a yin-yang vortex, thereby elevating his overall powers to a whole new level. He'd even be able to put up a fight against 3-word battle armor masters now. So he had to find another opponent for himself. There were still a few days left until the finals of the competition. After logging off from the Star Battle.net, Tang Wuling sat down with his legs crossed to meditate and digest everything that he learned through those sparring matches. However, Zhang Wuyu hadn't been able to place much pressure on him at all, so he hadn't benefited much from their sparring matches. The battles had only allowed him to better understand himself. As expected, having a soul core was completely different from not having one. What he had to do now was to think about how to collate all of his current powers to unleash the full extent of his combat prowess. His soul power had been improved all the way to rank 65, and he'd attained a soul core. Those were both extremely substantial enhancements, and what he had to do next was to accumulate and consolidate. After Tang Wuling awakened from his meditation, it was already the next morning. The soul communication ringtone of his blood god bracelet suddenly rang out. Hello, Blood One. Come on over. We're ready to hold your promotion ceremony. Tang Wuling's heart was instantly filled with excitement upon hearing this. He was going to become a colonel. What a massively pleasant surprise. He had only been here for a few months, and as it turned out, the decision to come here was an extremely correct one. Not only had he become vastly more powerful, he was now about to become a colonel, which was considered to be an intermediate level military official. After arriving at the Blood God Battalion, Tang Wuling was surprised to find that not only was Blood One waiting for him there, all of the other blood gods were also present. Greetings, superiors. Tang Wuling immediately stood up straight and extended a military salute. Blood One appraised him with a serious expression and said, following verification from the Legion and extensive discussions, we've decided to accept your request and promote you to the colonel rank as a reward for the accolades that you've accumulated, as well as the life force energy you brought to the entire Legion. Fringe member of the Blood God Battalion, Tang Wuling, please step forward. Yes. Tang Wuling strode over to Blood One, and Blood Three approached them while carrying a platter in her hands. There was a red cloth draped over the platter, sitting on top of which was a pair of epaulets. Each epaulet had 2 bars and 3 stars, and both of them were shimmering with golden light. Chapter 1008. Every young man had a soldier dream, and a soldier who didn't want to become a general wasn't a good soldier. During their youth, every man had the dream of becoming a military general, and Tang Wuling was no exception to this. As he appraised the epaulets that were being presented to him, a hint of excitement involuntarily appeared on his face. Blood One swapped over his epaulets for him in person, and all of the other 8 blood gods wore faint smiles on their faces. Blood One said, seeing as your military rank has exceeded Lieutenant Colonel, from now on, you will be promoted from a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion to a backup blood god. Your next target is him. He pointed at Blood 9 as he spoke before continuing. Outside of the 9 blood gods, the backup blood gods are the highest ranking members of the Blood God Battalion. But even so, your upper limit will still only be the senior colonel rank. If you want to progress further than that, then the task ahead of you is very simple. Defeat one of the blood gods, and you'll officially replace them. Understood? Tang Wuling turned his gaze toward Blood 9, and Blood 9 was also looking at him. As their eyes met, Blood 9 raised his eyebrows slightly as his smile widened. Blood 9 came from the Battle God Hall, and it was undoubtedly the case that he was a titled Douluo, as well as a 3-word battle armor master. There was still a considerable disparity between them. However, what Tang Wuling was currently thinking was that following his recent drastic power enhancements, what he needed the most now was a powerful opponent. Only in the face of the pressure exerted on him by powerful opponents could he continue to tap into his latent potential and maintain a fast speed of progression. Understood? Thank you, Superior. Superior Blood 9, if you have some free time now, I would like to challenge you in the Star Battle.net as we'll only be able to fight at our full power in the Battle.net. Tang Wuling immediately said. Blood 6 couldn't help but chuckle. Wuling, you're biting off way more than you can chew. You have to learn to walk before you try to run. Just like Blood 1, he was also from the Tang sect, so he felt a natural connection with Tang Wuling, and he was saying this to remind Tang Wuling not to be overly ambitious. An innocent and harmless smile appeared on Tang Wuling's face. I just want to see how much of a gap there is between myself and Superior Blood 9, so I have a goal to strive toward. Blood 9 smiled and replied, sure, I've got some free time now, so I'm up for a sparring match. He was taking this very seriously, and the massive difference in their cultivation ranks led him to completely believe what Tang Wuling was saying. Only Blood 1's expression changed ever so slightly. He had witnessed the entire process through which Tang Wuling had manifested his soul core. Manifesting a soul core was the symbol of a 7-ring soul sage, and even though Tang Wuling wasn't a soul sage yet, his soul power was far denser than that of the average soul master. That, in addition to the fact that he now possessed a soul core, meant that his current level of combat prowess was already comparable to that of a soul sage. On top of that, his golden dragon spear, 2-word battle armor, and immense bloodline power had to also be taken into account. Even though he was only a 2-word battle armor master, he was definitely far more powerful than the average 2-word battle armor master. Alright, let's all log on to the Star Battle.net and spectate this battle as well. Perhaps we can offer Wuling some guidance. Blood 1 proposed. Tang Wuling reminded. Superior, I don't think spectators are allowed for sparring matches in the Battle.net. All of the blood gods burst into laughter upon hearing this, and Blood 3 explained in a gentle voice. Our Blood God Battalion has some special privileges, and one of them is the right to spectate any battle we want, so you don't have to worry about that. Tang Wuling was quite surprised to hear this, but then again, it was only to be expected of the Blood God Battalion. Blood 1 turned to Blood 9, and cautioned. Wuling won't be as easy an opponent as you think. You better be on your guard. Blood 9 faltered slightly before bursting into laughter. Don't scare me like this, boss. I'll be very sad if I have to become a backup blood god. He hid behind Blood 8 and put on a fearful expression as he spoke, drawing another round of amused laughter from everyone. Blood 2 glowered at Blood 9 and scolded. Big brother is telling you not to get complacent, so listen to him. You're not a young boy anymore. Start taking things more seriously. A peculiar look appeared on Blood 9's face as he conceded. All right. Tang Wuling glanced at Blood 9, then turned toward Blood 2, and he suddenly discovered that they seemed to share a physical resemblance. Furthermore, Blood 9 was clearly very scared of Blood 2, and this was a genuine and innate sense of fear. Blood 3 chuckled. Their father and son. The fact that their family has 2 blood gods across 2 generations is quite a feel-good story in our legion. Tang Wuolin was enlightened upon hearing this. Within the Blood God Battalion, the Battle God Hall had the most members with a total of 3, consisting of Blood 2, Blood 8, and Blood 9. But who would have thought that Blood 9 would be Blood 2's son? This was indeed a feel-good story. Blood 2 was a titled Douluo himself, and his son had also followed in his footsteps. That was very remarkable. However, it was quite apparent from how fearful Blood 9 was toward Blood 2 that he had to have suffered a lot during his cultivation. Everyone has matters that need to be attended to later in the day, so let's go into the Star Battle.net now. Blood 1 concluded. Tang Wuolin returned to his own dormitory room, and he was feeling slightly nervous, but more so extremely excited. This was the first time that he was going to be facing a titled Douluo in a direct battle. Titled Douluo were beings who stood at the pinnacle of the entire Soulmaster world. All he was hoping for now was that there wouldn't be too much of a disparity between himself and Blood 9. Otherwise, there wouldn't be much point to this battle. He logged onto the Battle.net in a well-rehearsed manner. Little Tang appeared within the Battle.net, and Tang Wuolin took a moment to compose himself, sensing all of the changes that were taking place within his body and priming himself into his peak condition. He had always performed better under pressure, and the more powerful his opponent was, the more of his own latent potential he'd be able to tap into. As such, even though he was going to be facing the most powerful opponent he had ever encountered, he was only becoming more and more excited, and his condition was improving by the second. After arriving at the sports stadium, he quickly found all of the Blood Gods. The nicknames for the 9 Blood Gods were quite amusing. They have replaced the blood in their titles to Red, so they were nicknamed Red 1 all the way through to Red 9. Tang Wuolin was left feeling rather speechless upon seeing this, but he also had to admit that these were easy names to remember. Red 9 strode over to Little Tang before patting him on the shoulder. Good luck. We'll count this as a victory for you if you can force me to release my battle armor. How about that? Sure. Tang Wuolin nodded in response without any hesitation. Red 9 smiled, and said, I heard that you earned a lot of accolades for your forging. How about we make a little bet? This man had to be over 30 years of age, yet he still had the personality of a little kid, and Tang Wuolin was feeling rather speechless in response. All right, how much do you want to bet? He agreed without any hesitation. It wasn't a bad thing to be giving himself a bit more pressure. Red 9 thought about this for a moment before replying. Let's go with 10,000, but won't be very interesting if we bet any less than that. Hey, don't bully little kids. Red 8 strode over before pinching Blood 9's ear. Ow. Take it easy, little 8. I'm not bullying him. He's a 2-word battle armor master with a soul core, but he only has to force me to release my battle armor to secure victory. Aren't those terms already favorable enough for him? We're just having some fun anyway. I haven't done something this interesting for a long time. Humph. Blood 8 glared at him in a disappointed manner. Blood 9 offered her a fawning smile. If I win, I'll split you half, but you don't have to pay anything if I lose. How about that? Only then did a smile appear on Blood 8's face. Sounds good to me. Keep it down. Though, we don't want boss and the others to overhear. Tang Wuolin's lips twitched as he listened to this conversation. Just what kind of people was he dealing with? However, he was still very grateful toward Blood 8 as she had saved his life twice. Without Blood 8's intervention, there was no way that he would have been able to survive the attacks from those Abyssal Emperors. You can begin whenever you're ready. Blood 1's voice rang out in the distance. The Blood God Battalion was tasked with surveying the entire Abyssal passageway. The recent Abyssal tide had just concluded, so there most likely wouldn't be any powerful Abyssal being attacking anytime soon, but it was still best to end this as quickly as possible so they could return to their posts. Blood 9 made the generous gesture of issuing the fees required to access the competition venue, and the other 8 Blood Gods vanished amid flashes of light. Tang Wuolin and Blood 9 then also disappeared before appearing on the competition platform, facing one another with around 100 meters separating them. Chapter 1009. Tang Wuolin took a deep breath, and now that the battle was about to commence, a sharp look immediately appeared in his eyes. In contrast, Blood 9 still wore his usual smile on his face. 3, 2, 1, begin. Blood 9 made an inviting hand gesture to Tang Wuolin, and the latter quickly released his suit of battle armor. The shimmering golden suit of battle armor encapsulated his entire body, instantly taking him to over 3 meters tall. A pair of golden dragon wings spread open on his back, and his aura elevated in a frenzy. He brandished his golden dragon spear in front of him, and it was around 4.5 meters in length with a platinum spear projection erupting from on its spearheads. Blood 9's smile remained unchanged, but he also summoned his soul rings, and they emerged from beneath his feet before revolving around his body. There were 9 soul rings in total, consisting of 3 purple and 6 blacks, and his enormous aura as a titled Douluo surged through the air. Tang Wuolin swept his golden dragon spear in front of him, and Blood 9's expression changed slightly as he could sense that the aura that he'd released had just been sliced apart by Tang Wuolin's simple gesture. The next thing that he felt was the scorching sensation radiating from Tang Wuolin's body. It wasn't scorching heat in a temperature sense, but instead, a scorching aura that originated from his bloodline. 4 golden soul rings emerged from beneath Tang Wuolin's feet before revolving rhythmically around him, and his aura continued to swell drastically. In particular, his blood essence power was even making Blood 9's blood essence shudder slightly. It was no wonder that Blood 1 had such a lofty opinion of him. He really was something else. Blood 9's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cautious look appeared on his face. He was a titled Douluo, so he naturally couldn't initiate an attack, so it was left to Tang Wuolin to rush forward like lightning toward Blood 9 with his golden dragon spear pointing directly forward. He withdrew his wings slightly and didn't unleash any of his abilities for now. He had been able to fight in a carefree manner against Jiang Wuyu, but he was currently facing one of the 9 blood gods. He held his golden dragon spear by his side with its spear projection pointing forward, and at this point, his pupils had already become vertical. His yin-yang vortex was rotating at full speed at his behest, and his powers had been elevated to the very max. The 100 meters between them was covered in virtually the blink of an eye, and when they were still around 30 meters away from one another, Tang Wuolin tapped his foot in the ground, propelling his body into the air like a bolt of golden lightning. He pointed his golden dragon spear forward, and the spear projection swelled drastically in size. He flapped his dragon wings and unleashed his golden dragon takes flight, instantly elevating his speed to such an extent that he broke through the sound barrier. A sonic boom erupted, and the platinum spear projection reached Blood 9 in a flash. His speed was extraordinary for someone of his cultivation rank, and not only was this due to the enhancements from his suit of battle armor, his abilities were also contributing to this. With his ultra-powerful physical constitution, the speed that Tang Wuolin was currently displaying was definitely not inferior to that of a titled Douluo. Blood 9 was also taking Tang Wuolin more seriously now, and as soon as Tang Wuolin reached him, he also unleashed his martial soul. A strange weapon appeared in his hand. It was also a spear, but it had only one sharp spearhead that was around a meter in length. The spearhead was in the shape of a snake with a forked tip. It was a snake spear. A snake spear is a traditional Chinese weapon. You can Google search an image of it for an idea of what it looks like. The 9 soul rings that were originally revolving around his body instantly appeared around his snake spear, and the light erupted from the front of the snake spear, resembling a large snake flicking its forked tongue. He flicked his wrist, and the spearhead of the snake spear swept toward Tang Wuolin's golden dragon spear. No spear projection was released, but in the instant that the snake spear swept through the air, the surrounding air seemed to have twisted and warped in an attempt to refract Tang Wuolin's spear projection. However, right at this moment, the power of his spear projection completely erupted. After coming into contact with the warped space, the spear projection of the golden dragon spear did indeed waver momentarily, but in the next instant, it pierced directly through the warped space before reaching Blood 9 in a flash. Blood 9 raised an eyebrow as his body gently swayed to evade the spear projection, and at the same time, his snake spear clashed with Tang Wuolin's golden dragon spear. Ding! A crisp clang rang out, and the snake spear shot back like lightning. Tang Wuolin suddenly sensed a strange rotational force acting upon his golden dragon spear, drawing it off to the side. The snake spear then reappeared at a lightning-fast speed, and on this occasion, it appeared right in front of Tang Wuolin's chest. What incredible attacking speed! Was this the attacking speed of a titled Douluo? However, the problem was that this attack wasn't actually able to swat his golden dragon spear aside, and this was an observation that came as quite a shock to Blood 9 as well. As a titled Douluo, he naturally also possessed the strength of a titled Douluo, and if he'd been facing a normal soul emperor, that instant of contact just now would have been enough to wrench the weapon directly out of his opponent's hand. However, in the instant that his snake spear struck Tang Wuolin's golden dragon spear, he felt as if he had just attacked a mountain, and the sharpness of Tang Wuolin's spear struck him with a burst of pain through his snake spear. After that, the golden dragon spear was diverted off its original trajectory, but it was still hurtling toward his shoulder with devastating force. As things currently were, his snake spear was going to strike Tang Wuolin's chest, but at the same time, Tang Wuolin's golden dragon spear was going to strike his shoulder. Blood 9 had seen video footage of the golden dragon spear, and he had a very clear recollection of its ability to devour energy. Furthermore, Tang Wulin's defenses were being bolstered by his suit of two-word battle armor. As a title Douluo, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through the defenses of a suit of two-word battle armor, but his spear would definitely be forced to slow down during the process, and by that time, he'd already have been injured by Tang Wulin's spear. Was it worth it? As a title Douluo, Blood9 would feel very embarrassed if he would be wounded by a Soul Emperor. As such, he instantly made his decision, and his next spear changed directions, sliding away from Tang Wulin's chest and aiming toward his right armpit instead. His attack was going to strike Tang Wulin first, and in doing so, Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear would naturally draw to an abrupt halt. However, right at this moment, Tang Wulin also sprang into action. The surface of his dragon moon battle armor instantly took on a mirror-like appearance, and he made no attempt to evade as he unleashed a platinum spear projection from his golden dragon spear, which hurtled directly toward Blood9's shoulder. Soul power fluctuations abruptly emerged from Blood9's shoulder, forming a burst of warped light that forcibly refracted Tang Wulin's spear projection. Even so, the spear projection still inflicted a gash on his shoulder. Thankfully, it was only a glancing blow, so it didn't manage to absorb any of his life force energy. But who would have thought that a title Douluo would be injured by a Soul Emperor after just a single exchange? At the same time, the snake spear had also reached close to Tang Wulin's armpit, and Tang Wulin only had time to shift his body slightly in response. He made no attempt to evade. Instead, he was using his breastplate to take the attack. Ding! The snake spear instantly shattered his two-word battle armor's protective barrier, and the surface of the battle armor caved in slightly, but at the same time, it began to flash rapidly. Blood9 had thought that even though Tang Wulin had managed to hurt him, this would be the end of the battle, but much to his surprise, his snake spear failed to pierce through Tang Wulin's two-word battle armor. How could this be? He had already released his first soul skill to increase the sharpness of his snake spear. Right at this moment, Tang Wulin suddenly let go of his golden dragon spear, and he made a grab for the snake spear with his left golden dragon claw while lashing out with his right hand. Golden dragon annihilation claws. A massive set of golden dragon claws appeared out of thin air, and countless blue silver emperor vines also erupted forth before fusing into the sharp claws from behind. This was a blood soul fusion skill, so to put it more accurately, this was his blue emperor golden dragon annihilation claws. The enormous pressure and destructive aura emanating from the attack made even Blood9's expression change drastically, and in that instant, he could sense that his life was coming under threat. This was not good. How were this kid's attack so powerful? His snake spear shattered as its third soul ring lit up, and a giant python suddenly erupted from the spear, crashing viciously into Tang Wulin's chest and sending him flying back through the air. Even so, the blue emperor golden dragon annihilation claws, which encompassed a range of over 20 meters, still reached him with devastating force. This was one of Tang Wulin's most powerful offensive abilities, and it was the combination of his Dusk Gold Dreadclaw Bear right hand soul bone, Golden Dragon King bloodline, battle armor, 9 hearts of the golden dragon, and his blood soul fusion skills. This attack possessed title Douluo level destructive power. Tang Wulin was sent flying by Blood9 and was throwing up blood as he flew through the air, but his attack was also unavoidable. Blood9 instantly made an accurate assessment, and he was stunned to discover that he wouldn't be able to handle this attack unless he released his battle armor. But how was this possible? His body sprang into action as soon as he made his judgment, and his suit of grey battle armor instantly appeared over his body as an emergency response. He withdrew his snake spear before abruptly spreading open the wings on his back, and a halo of grey light was also released. Chapter 1010. The blue emperor golden dragon annihilation claws abruptly faltered in midair as if they had plunged into a swamp, and the speed of the attack was significantly hampered. He took advantage of this opportunity to sweep his snake spear upward, and his sixth soul ring lit up as a giant python projection appeared behind him. Countless light projections immediately erupted from his snake spear, making it appear as if there were countless snakes dancing in a frenzy before clashing with the blue emperor golden dragon annihilation claws. The claws were shattered as a result, but Blood9 was also forced to descend onto the ground. If one could see through his visor at this moment, they discovered that he currently wore a completely stunned look on his face. Never would he have thought that he'd be forced into such a passive state by a soul emperor. How was this possible? His opponent was only a 6-ring soul emperor. He had been full of confidence when he had stated that it would be considered as his loss if he were forced to release his battle armor, but never did he think that he'd actually lose. However, the fact of the matter was that even though he'd been able to nullify his opponent's attack through the power of his 3-word battle armor, he was still forced down onto the ground by the enormous impact. This was downright incredible. Just how incredibly strong was his opponent? Tang Wulin was also in a rather sorry state. He felt as if there was something heavy weighing down upon his chest, and even though his battle armor had withstood most of the attack, it was still an attack from a title Douluo. After all, 2 bursts of soul power erupted from the snake spear and squirmed into his body in a frenzy. Even though his battle armor had kept around 80% of that power at bay, the remaining 20% was still enough to make him feel as if his internal organs were on fire. Thankfully, his yin-yang vortex was able to gradually nullify the destructive power of these 2 bursts of energy through its rapid rotation. As expected, a title Douluo really was something else. At this moment, all of the 8 spectating blood gods wore different expressions on their faces, and Blood 8 was the most astonished of all. Blood 9 had just lost the bet after only a single exchange. How was this possible? Since when did Tang Wulin become this powerful? She was the one who had first taken him to the blood god battalion, and even though he played an important role during the battle against the abyssal creatures, there was no way that he could compare with the blood gods. However, only a short time had passed since then, and he was able to force Blood 9 to release his suit of 3-word battle armor in a direct clash while sustaining minimal injuries himself. Anyone would struggle to believe that this was happening, but the truth was right before their eyes. A faint smile appeared on Blood 1's face. This little guy really was unique. That claw attack just now definitely wasn't a simple soul skill. Tang Wulin took a deep breath to repress his injuries, and the look in his eyes had become even more serious. He was going to be facing a 3-word battle armor master from now on, so this battle was only going to become more arduous for him. Blood 9's expression had darkened considerably. He was feeling very shocked and embarrassed. All of the other blood gods were spectating this battle, and even his father was present. He had confidently made a bet with Tang Wulin prior to the commencement of the battle, thinking that he'd be able to earn some easy accolades, but who would have thought that he would have already lost the best after just a single exchange? Theoretically speaking, this match should already be concluded with him as the loser. How had this kid become so powerful? In contrast, Tang Wulin's eyes were currently practically burning with battle intent. His golden dragon spear had returned to his grasp, and his dragon moon battle armor, which had caved in slightly, had also gradually returned to normal. Even though it was only a suit of 2-word battle armor, it was constructed from a spirit alloy comprised of 3 different types of metals, so its offensive and defensive prowess, as well as its self-repair abilities, were far superior to that of normal suits of 2-word battle armor. Tang Wulin pointed his golden dragon spear forward before raising his head and letting whistle on cry. He spread open his wings before flapping them vigorously, launching himself into the air in the process. Golden dragon takes flight. A thunderous dragon's roar rang out as a massive golden dragon revolved around his body, and the golden dragon was being bolstered by countless blue silver emperor vines. As a result, Tang Wulin's aura was elevated to its very maximum extent in virtually the blink of an eye. Blood 9 harumphed coldly before pointing his snake spear in Tang Wulin's direction, and his 6th soul ring lit up once again. The massive python projection reappeared, and dazzling light also erupted from the snake spear in his hands. At the same time, his 3-word battle armor domain, which seemed to be comprised of countless giant pythons, had expanded to cover an extremely huge area. Right at this moment, something was also happening to Tang Wulin's body, and he unleashed several abilities at the same time. A halo of golden light abruptly proliferated through the air beneath him. This was none other than his violent golden dragon domain. The 2 domains clashed, and Blood 9's battle armor domain was almost instantly stained a golden color. The potency of a domain and the area encompassed was directly related to the Soul Master's powers, but there were also differences in the calibers of domains. It was undoubtedly the case that the caliber of Tang Wulin's violent golden dragon domain far outstripped that of Blood 9's battle armor domain. As such, despite the fact that Blood 9 held an absolute cultivation rank advantage, his domain wasn't actually able to overwhelm Tang Wulin's. Tang Wulin's body faltered slightly, but at the same time, Blood 9 was also affected by the violent golden dragon domain, striking him with a clear feeling that his own aura was being repressed. Right at this moment, Tang Wulin suddenly let loose a thunderous dragon's roar as he hurtled through the air. The giant golden dragon head formed by the blue emperor golden dragon takes flight suddenly expanded, and it also took on a more substantial form. An ear-splitting roar rang out as peerlessly powerful blood essence fluctuations erupted forth. Even as a title Douluo, Blood 9 was struck by an instant of of disorientation, and his bloodline was clearly being dominated by that thunderous roar. The giant python projection behind him displayed an even stronger reaction. It was instantly shattered and vanished into nothingness. His sixth soul skill had been destroyed by Tang Wulin in an instant. After letting loose that almighty roar, the giant dragon head abruptly shuddered, and the entire giant golden dragon suddenly became more substantial as it hurtled toward Blood 9 right after it shattered his sixth soul skill. This appeared to have only been one continuous attack unleashed by Tang Wulin, but in reality, he had unleashed his Blue Emperor Golden Dragon takes flight, Blue Emperor Golden Dragon roar, and Blue Emperor Golden Dragon shocks the heavens in quick succession. He was facing a tidal Douluo, so he certainly didn't dare to hold back. Blood 9 instantly returned to his senses, and he was quite stunned that his sixth soul skill had been destroyed so easily. But right at this moment, his three-word battle armor suddenly displayed an emergency reaction. A glittering and translucent grey light barrier appeared over the surface of the lavish suit of battle armor, immediately blocking the golden dragon shocks the heavens. At the same time, he swept his snake spear upward, and countless streaks of light abruptly erupted from it. He didn't use any of his soul skill for this attack. Instead, it was the purest battle technique. His immense soul power was enhanced by his suit of three-word battle armor, instantly elevating his powers to the hyper Douluo level. Even without using any soul skills, he was still equivalent to a hyper Douluo in power. Their absolute cultivation rank disparity was on full display in this moment. Even after receiving so many enhancements, the Blue Emperor Golden Dragon shocks the heavens was still destroyed by the snake spear, and its residual power could only send faint ripples running over the surface of the three-word battle armor's protective barrier. However, Blood 9 was still forced back into retreat by the tremendous force behind that attack. In the face of a three-word battle armor master, it was already very remarkable that Tang Wulin had been able to accomplish this. He only possessed rank 65 soul power and a suit of two-word battle armor, so theoretically, his powers hadn't even reached the tidal Douluo level. However, he was able to force back a tidal Douluo who was also a three-word battle armor master. No one would have believed that this was possible. Blood 9's defenses were completely impenetrable, and at this point, he had already calmed down and was appraising his opponent in a serious manner. Light flashed from his snake spear, and his third soul skill was activated once again. A giant python erupted from the spear, hurtling directly toward the golden dragon shocks the heavens, which had already been nullified during the clash. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.